Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to start a really exciting series of vlogs. So I am going to be reading the Throne of Glass series for the first time. This will be a spoiler kind of review based series. So I'm going to be talking about what happens in the book in depth. I thought that this might be a really good idea because, just from me being on booktok and booktube and Instagram and everything, everyone seems to have already read it, and the amount of times I've clicked on a video and it's been spoiler free and I've already read it and I thought, oh, I just wish I could hear your thoughts on this particular scene or these characters. So I thought that might be a fun way to kind of start reviewing books. Yeah, so I have never read any Sarah J Maas books before. I was trying to decide whether or not to read the Throne of Glass series first or ACOTAR, but so many people say that they love Throne of Glass, that it's their favorite Sarah J Maas series. So I thought I'd give it a go. I actually have already read Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through The Assassin's Blade. There is a lot of, I guess, public discourse about how you read the series, what order you read the books in. I know that some people read The Assassin's Blade first because this is a collection of short stories about the main character, Selena, prior to the series starting. But I decided to read Throne of Glass and the Midnight Crown and then jump into The Assassin's Blade. I thought initially that I just wanted to get a view of what Selena was like in the series, if that makes sense, like in context to her character development in the series before I learnt her backstory. And I'm glad I did it that way because going into this book, I think I've had some revelations about her that I might not have had otherwise. I also thought, I'll read Thread of Glass and then I'll jump into The Assassin's Blade, but I just was enjoying the story so much that I wanted to, get right into Crown of Midnight. So I think the structure for today's video is I'm going to talk you through my thoughts on the first two books and the first part I've read of The Assassin's Blade, and then I'm going to do a bit of a reading vlog. Hopefully finish The Assassin's Blade, show you guys my thoughts, and then, in subsequent videos, I'm going to do more of a deep dive into the other books. I'm still deciding whether or not I want to do Empire of Storm and Tower of Dawn as a tandem read. So if any of you guys have suggestions, please let me know. At this point in time, I'm thinking I'm probably just going to read them individually. But yes, undecided, and I've got a few books to go before I get there. So that is what we're doing today. So jumping in to our spoiler review, I should say. Okay, so Throne of Glass. Like I said, going into this, I had absolutely no idea what this series was about. I didn't even know who Selena was, that she was an assassin, what kind of world I was jumping into, if there was magic, no magic. I had zero idea. So when I picked this up, it was refreshing, and I have really been enjoying YA, I guess, fantasies. It's nice sometimes to just be able to breeze through a book that isn't highly complicated and I have to think a lot about. So yeah, I guess overall I really, really loved it. I read it in about a day or two, and it kind of had Hunger Games-esque vibes with the whole competition of who will become the king's champion. So essentially the plot of the story is that Selenia was the world's greatest assassin and she was caught, and her punishment was that she was sent to a slave camp, which is in a salt mine. And one day she basically gets called out of her duties as a slave to be the prince's champion in this competition of all other slaves and thieves to decide who will be the king's assassin. And the background to that is that my understanding reading this book was that Selena did not like the king at all, but it was the only way that she was going to get out of this slavery. And she knew that she probably couldn't survive another year because it was just so grueling and horrible. And because of who she was receiving extra punishment. So she agreed to do the competition, and if she was to become the champion, then she would only have to serve for, I think it was 4 years, and then she would be freed. So she agrees to do it, and then Selena, the prince, and then the other main character in the book is Captain Westfall. They go back to the palace, which is made of glass, and that's where the title of the book comes from, Throne of Glass. So they go back to this palace, and that's where she lives and trains and kind of competes in the competition. I guess that's like a very broad arching overview of what the story is about. Obviously, during the competition, a lot of other things happen. So there's, politics about the prince's role in relation to the king, about other nobles and them trying to fight for power, about other women in the court trying to get into a favorable position so that they will have security. There's a lot going on. The prince's name is Dorian, and there's like romance between them, which I really liked. I really, really liked Dorian. I think he was such a good character, really easy to root for. And in contrast, I liked Selena, but she's got some of those annoying fantasy tropes in this book anyway, of very much like, I'm just a girl, like I'm just a silly little girl, but I'm also the world's most prestigious assassin, and I could kill anyone, so no one better come near me. There's just a lot of juxtapositions, but I did really enjoy her, and she's very feisty. She has a lot to say, and she kind of has the attitude of, damn the consequences, because she knows that she can just kill anyone. So I did enjoy that. There's also magic in this book. So one of the subplots of the book is that while they're at the palace and they're competing in the competition, some of the other contestants just end up dead in this, crazy way. And they're trying to figure out who did it. And I guess during that adventure of trying to figure out, she discovers that even though the kingdom has been kind of cleared of magic, and that happened when the king, outlawed magic, and then all of the magic dried up, she basically discovered that there's these ancient elements of magic in the palace that she's somehow connected to. So about halfway through the book, she kind of stumbles down this, little pathway and ends up in the tomb of the first queen of the country that they live in. And that queen, she was an elf, and she married a human, and she's basically talking to Selena and saying, like, there's things going on, there's dark things happening, and you have the capacity to stop it, and I'm kind of putting you in my protection to stop it. So that's kind of going on underlying. So there's like a lot happening for Selena. She's trying not to die. She's trying to fight for her freedom. And then on top of that, now she's basically, I guess, trying to stop these dark forces that are taking over the palace. That's the plot of the book. I did really enjoy the characters. There is, I guess, the essence of like a love triangle between Captain Westfall, Dorian, and Selena. Captain Westfall's first name is Kale, I should say. I enjoyed the main plot, I enjoyed the subplots, and I also liked that the book had like a definitive ending of her becoming the champion and winning the contest, but also the possibility of so much more happening. It wasn't a really big cliffhanger, which I enjoy, because sometimes when books have really big cliffhangers, then that like plot point gets resolved in the first 50 pages of the next book, and I kind of feel, why am I still reading? Sarah J. Maas wrote the book with so many open-ended questions that there were so many directions it could go in. And, even right now, like I'm only 2.5 books in, I have an idea of what might happen in the story, but I actually don't know at all. I thought of Throne of Glass, I rated it 3 stars, I think just because it was easy to go along with. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I've kind of heard that in this series, the earlier books aren't the best, and you just kind of have to, get to the later ones. But I really enjoyed it. I like the characters, and I do feel like rather invested. So, as I said, as soon as I finished this, pretty much straight away, I jumped into Crown of Midnight, which is the second book in the series. And this book takes right off from where we finish. So, in this book, she just becomes a champion. And in this book, she's the champion and she's going out and kind of carrying out these tasks for the king, which is, of course, being an assassin and killing people. See more in this book that Selena really has conscience and she has really strong ethics, which, she can't carry out those duties as an assassin like she used to. She also doesn't like the king. So a lot of the things that he's telling her to do, she just doesn't want to do. So, right from the get-go, we see that she's sent on these missions to kill people and she helps them fake their death. She won't do it because she doesn't think that they deserve to die. And she, I guess, even though she is afraid of the consequences, she thinks that the risk is worth the reward. The king did tell her that if she was to ever run away or, I guess, challenge him, that he would hurt Kale, who she had become really close with, and his family, because she doesn't really have anyone for him to personally hurt. She doesn't have any family left. So I guess it's throughout the book she's really trying to grapple with doing the right thing, but also making sure she's keeping those people that she loves safe. At the start of this book too, Selena and Dorian, the prince, kind of end their romantic endeavors. And then we pick up into Selena and Kale, which I just wasn't a fan of. I like Dorian. I thought it was a stupid reason to break up. The reason being that she was going to work for his father. She was already, like essentially working for the royal family in the first book. So I didn't think that they should have broken up. And I think also it's just so stupid of Kale, who's best friends with Dorian, all of a sudden to basically say, oh, I know you were dating and now I am into her as well. I don't know. I thought it was stupid. I didn't like it. I think Kale, I don't know what it is about him, but he just like, I couldn't commit to them as a couple. I just don't think that Kale is as steadfast in his views of what is wrong and right and where his loyalty lies as Selena is. And I think that's because maybe it's because just we haven't had the character development in this book yet. Although I do think it's because he's never had to be fully independent. He went from being a part of a royal family to then, I guess, working as the captain for the king. He's always had to have his loyalty really strongly aligned to someone. And during Crown of Midnight, there are moments where his loyalty is really intensely aligned with Selena, but then it wavers, and he, I guess, is struggling between that and the king. The main, I guess, plot of this is that early on in the book, she's sent to kill someone called Archer, who she knew when she was, the best assassin in the world prior to getting sent to the slave camp. And she makes the same deal with him, she said, with other people. That being, if you, leave the city in a couple of days, I'll fake your death. You can't come back here. But by doing that, she finds out that Archer is a part of this rebel group trying to, I guess, take down the king or undermine the king. And some of her other friends are involved and caught up. So there's this like murder mystery element, which is really good. And I guess during that, one of her female friends who she makes in the first book, Nehemia, who's the princess of Elwyn, which is another country, is murdered. So they're trying to figure out who kills Nehemia, and Selena is absolutely devastated that her friend has died. I was, so enjoying it. I didn't really have like super strong feelings about it. And then in the last 100 pages, so much happened and I just was glued to it. I couldn't, stop reading. We basically find out that Selena is half elven and, she accidentally creates a portal to this other world, which, that they talk about that throughout the book. And she does have the ability to kind of do some ancient magic, but it's always under the guise of the magic is there, not that she's the one who possesses the ability to do it. But yeah, she makes this portal because she's just absolutely heartbroken at the death of her friend and she wants to talk to her. But by doing that, um, Archer, we find it actually has bad intentions and he wants to open these portals. And Selena's like, I didn't mean to do that. That was an absolute mistake. But there's a fight that ensues and she kind of gets pushed through the portal. And when that happens, it's discovered that she's actually, I don't know if she's half elven or if she's elven, but she is not who she thought she is. And Kale sees all of this and absolutely freaks out. And in my head, I'm thinking, I did not see that coming, but it all makes sense because throughout the book, there's all of these, little comments about, I've never seen someone run as fast as Selena. She moves so swiftly. And I was thinking, does she have the ability to use this magic in her everyday, I guess, assassin duties and just not aware of it? Did she know that she was half magic? We don't know. We don't know because it happened right at the end of the book. So that happens. And then Kale, even though they've been fighting and they're not really talking, he's still in love with her and he wants to protect her. And he knows that if the king finds out, she's going to get killed. So he kind of creates this plan for her to be sent away to another country where magic still exists and there are, I guess, protections for people like that. So he basically strikes a deal with his dad to back him in this council meeting with the king. And he basically says, I want to send the king's champion to kill our family's biggest targets because it'll further our interests and then we can support the king more. And in return, I'll stop being the king's captain and I'll come home and I'll do my duties, which is, from my understanding of Kale, something he doesn't want to do. But I guess that's a testament to how much he really loves Selena and he's trying to protect her. So right at the end of the book, she gets sent away. He thinks, or we're led to believe, he's thinking, I've protected her. She never has to come back. She can just go and be over there and I guess, learn all of these new things about her. But Selena knows in her mind that if she doesn't return, Kale and his Nehemiah's family, so even though Nehemia the princess has been killed, her family will get murdered as well as Kale if she doesn't return. So she's freaking out. She's how can I do this? I don't want to kill, this innocent family, but I can't really fake it because they're so royal. People will know if they're dead or alive. And then right at the end of the book, like in the last 10 pages, we find out that Selena is not who she thinks she is or who she said she is. She is actually Elena Glyphisian, heir to the throne of Teresian. So she's a princess and she's the ruler of another area in her own right. And my understanding, an area that the king has, taken. So she could really challenge the throne. And in becoming the king's champion, she has essentially been able to learn so much about what's happened and, what can she do with that information. So that is my very chaotic recap of this book. I really liked it. I gave this one a 4 stars. It wasn't quite a 5 stars, but I can see multiple 5 stars in this series. The Assassin's Blade, I'm not all the way finished. I have about 150 pages left. So this book is broken into 5 stories and I'm halfway through the 4th story. But essentially the stories, I guess, kind of show that even when Selena was, head assassin or like the best assassin, she still had ethics and morals and she would choose sometimes to even like punish herself to do the right thing. So the first story is about her getting sent to this island to strike a deal with the king of the pirates to create a slave trade. And she really disagrees with this. She's been sent with another assassin whose name's Sam, who at that point in the book she really doesn't like. And she basically decides, like, I'm going to destroy the deal. I don't want my master, Arabin, entering the slave trade. I don't want to be a part of this at all. So that story is about basically how they go about bringing all the slaves and like destroying the deal. And in doing that, she makes an enemy for life in the pirate king, or the head of the pirates. And then when she goes back, she's brutally punished by Arabin because she's lost him all of this money. So she gets back and she's beaten up black and blue. And then straight away we go into the second story, which is the assassin and the healer. So she gets beaten up and then she's sent to like a faraway land. She's hiding out in this little pub. Her face is all, black and blue, and she's making this journey to go into the Red Desert to train with the mute assassin master, and that's her punishment. But on the first leg of the journey, she basically meets this healer who the healer's mother was magical and she had been murdered, and the healer, ends up in this really bad pub. And by meeting, Selena is able to teach the healer how to defend herself and then also give her an opportunity to kind of change her life. So I guess 2 stories in to the book, we've learned that Selena always chooses to stand up for less fortunate people. And then the third book is about her in the Red Desert. That one's called The Assassin in the Desert. And she basically has to go and train with this group of assassins that live in the Red Desert, makes friends there, and basically it's another story of her being tested of what is the right and wrong thing to do. First time in her career as an assassin, she's kind of faced this situation of, my friend has betrayed me. Is it my duty to kill them, or do I have the opportunity to give someone a second chance? And she gives someone a second chance. And I don't think Arabin meant for her to learn that lesson, but the whole lesson, all the lessons she learnt when she was at that camp, or that, that place, was essentially that in order to be a good assassin, you have to, I guess, first learn to be one with nature, and second, learn that the decision is always yours. Like, you're not always taking someone else's command. You can act with integrity and still do the job. Well, that's what I got out of it. And yeah, so now I am in The Assassin in the Underworld. So she's just returned to the city. She's finished her training and she's been given another mission to do, which is to kill a noble person that's in town. She was given this mission by Arabin as kind of a reward, and Sam, who, at the very start of the book she hates, and then towards the end of the first story, there's a bit of like, are they interested in each other, yes or no? In this one, it's like, I think that they're heading towards a romantic interest. And in Throne of Glass, it's hinted that, well, not hinted, I think she actually says that they were romantically entangled. What I'm up to is basically her and Sam are like stalking out this victim and trying to come up with a plan. But I'm hoping I have like a lot of free time today, so I'm on page 263. So, and there's only 430 pages, so I'm hoping to just like kind of sit down and smash it out. I guess I will leave you with that now, and I will see you in a bit when I have finished reading The Assassin's Blade. Okay, so I just finished reading the 4th novella in the book, The Assassin and the Underworld, and it was so good. I feel like this has been the most shocking in terms of like character development, because in both Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, I got the impression that Selena really thought of Arabin highly and they still had a good relationship, and she thought that he was going to kind of look for her, or, when it was more widely known that she was living at the palace, that he would try and come and see her. But in this story, it's like a complete I don't know, like they have a big fight at the end of the story. I was like, I don't think they're ever going to talk again, kind of thing. Like, really, he does her really dirty, and I think he feels betrayed by her because she pays back her debt so that he doesn't own her, which I think is so reasonable. But he's obviously not a reasonable person. Like, to have her as an asset, I think more than he cares about her as a person. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting. And then the other part, which just got me, was on page 309. Selena and Sam finally kind of acknowledge that they have feelings for each other. So I'll just like put it up on screen here. But it was so sweet. Like the whole I love you, he repeated, shaking her again. I have for years. And he hurt you and made me watch because he'd always known how I felt too. But if I asked you to pick, you choose him and I can't take it. And then she replies, you're a damned idiot, she breathed, grabbing the front of his tunic. You're a moron and an ass and a damned idiot because I'd pick you. And then she kissed him. And it's just so sweet. I think also going into this, because it's a prequel, I knew that they like had a bit of a relationship, and we know that he dies because it's talked about a lot in the first book. So that breaks my heart a lot, but also it was kind of nice for her to have this moment of reckoning, of acknowledging that she can have feelings for someone apart from Arabin, because throughout the whole story, and I guess the context of this, it seems a little bit like she only trusts him and he's, in her mind, the only person that can care for her, and everything else is just about her looks, or it's fake, or it's a front she puts on to, play a character when she's trying to kill someone. So I have one more story to read, which I think I'm going to do this afternoon. That's The Assassin and the Empire. So I'm going to try and like sit down and read that this afternoon. Then hopefully I'll finish it with you and we can talk about it straight away. I don't even know what to say. I knew that he was gonna die, but that I actually nearly cried. That was savage. That was so savage. Oh, I'm honestly a little bit speechless. And now I know that she's gonna get caught. It's just such a sad ending. No. And at this point, I actually really do like Sam a lot more than I like Kale and even Dorian. I just think that Sam, honestly, oh, it's so shocking because I knew it was going to happen, but that was honestly heartbreaking. Like, basically, she's talking about how she was walking around, like, pacing for him, waiting for him to come home. And, um, he's died. And, like, her seeing the body and they've taken his eyes out. Like, it's just so awful and graphic. Oh, okay. I'm going to try and finish this. I don't even want to keep reading because I know it's just going to, like, tear my heart out. But I can't even say that it's all gonna work out in the end, because then we know that she's like enslaved after this for a year, and then finally she gets some good grace, but it takes a while. So okay, I'll check back in once I finish, I guess. Okay, so I just finished reading The Assassin's Blade, and that was honestly such an emotional roller coaster. I nearly teared up in the end, which is so bizarre because I knew what the plot was. I knew that Sam was gonna die and that Selena was going to try and avenge him, get caught, and then be sent to the slavery camps. But I just honestly was so attached to Sam. I was so heartbroken when he died. And then the twist at the end, you probably saw it on my face when we found out that Arabin was actually the person who betrayed her. Dead. I was so shocked. And now, when I think back to reading Throne of Glass, she still kind of talked of him in a really appreciative way. Like, it's such an odd dynamic. I guess she doesn't know, though, that he's the person that did that. But yeah, that was really good. I enjoyed that. I think I would probably give that like a 4.25 star. Um, yeah, good development. I'm glad I didn't read that one first because it's clear to me reading that she knew she wasn't Selena Sadovian the whole time. My understanding before going into this book was that she thought that she was always Selena Sadovian. Like maybe when her parents had died, she just had like suppressed who she actually was. But no, now from reading it, she's always known who she was. And Selena Sadovian was just, I guess, like a character or part of herself that she created to be safe because she knew that she would be hunted if people thought that she was alive. I think that's where I'm going to leave it for today. So that's the first like three ish books of this series read. I'm probably going to jump into Air of Fire pretty soon and I'll do a bit more of a comprehensive reading vlog. So definitely tune in to see that. Thanks for watching. Bye.